So we go to the judge's card to evaluate this book. I would say that the major thesis of this book is how to throw a right hook after jabbing the audience sufficiently in order to entice them to do what you want them to do. Gary fell a little bit short of doing precisely that. I would say this was more like a sparring session. Let me tell you, first of all, a couple of the pet peeves I have about about this book and why. First of all, uh, Gary or his editor uses what's called the serial comma, and that is, for example, in a sentence like apples, comma, oranges, comma, or bananas. You could or could have been and there before the preposition before that. I mean, I find that third comma very annoying, and it actually slows me down reading. There's on page 136 of Gary's book, and there's many other examples as well. He already uses the comma. I would say he overuses the comma. It's his style, or maybe the in-house style of his publisher. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that I found it distracting and it slowed me down. Gary's very articulate. He's got a lot of ideas, and try to follow these multi-threaded ideas. I mean, it would have made a bigger impact, at least on me, if they didn't use that serial comma. It would flow better. Now that's my subjective opinion. And another uh, concern that I have, or a pet peeve that I have, is that, and I've said it before in the Facebook and Twitter videos, that Gary doesn't provide an index or a detailed table of contents. And I mean, I like to refer back to things that he said to see if he contradicted himself, or if I want to see some great insights. And gee, where did I read that? I mean, right now, my book is filled with all these little post-its to be able to find some of the items that I thought were great. So I would have preferred to have had an index. And my personal opinion was, yeah, he may have had to pay a professional indexer some money to do this, but I honestly think that he would sell more copies of Right Hook if he did add that to it. Uh, Getting into some more serious, substantive issues, was that Gary didn't show us in this book how to measure your right hook. I mean, we took in our course, uh, Karen S.D., our instructor, presented a quote, if I may read this, in the very first lesson we had, and that was that measurement is the first step that leads to control and eventually to improvement. If you can't measure something, you can't understand it. If you can't understand it, you can't control it. If you can't control it, you can't improve it. And to take one step further with Gary V's metaphor of the right hook, how do you know you hit with your right hook? What if you missed? If there's no measurement, and we looked at these in some of the SMART goals, where you set precise targets and defined metrics, then you know whether you're successful or not. But Gary Vee didn't really present any way or any examples, success stories, that would give us some type of notion or understanding of how to make sure that we're throwing the right hook successfully. But that being said, I will say that Gary Vee made a lot of excellent points in Right Hook, and it did, quite frankly, appear on the bestseller list. So, I mean, he's got juice from some of his previous work, but I can honestly say that for my needs, and I'm not an e-commerce salesperson, I'm not building a brand. My needs are rather unique. I'm trying to drive traffic to international trade informational websites. And I can honestly say, on the social networking platforms that are most critical to me, I now know how to better approach Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and have at least some knowledge on how to approach some of the newer social networking platforms as well. So overall, I would say that I would give a thumbs up to Gary's book. And in fact, I would give him a knockout decision.